Attention denizens of planet Earth.
Broadcasting from Carbondale in Southern Illinois' premier comic shop. And now your host, superlative shaman of comic book knowledge, Dan Brown. Flash the match signal in case of emergency for your host with the most on his mind, Matt Morton. Watch out, criminals. There's nothing funny to him about truth, justice, and the American way. It's Commander Harris himself, Scott Reed. And tuning in from the far reaches of no man's land, the mad scientist dream leader, Mike No. This is Campus Comics Cast.
All right, well, hello there. Welcome to the latest episode of the Campus Comics Cast. We're coming to you from Campus Comics at 816 East Main Street, Suite B in Carbondale. Sort of a leaner,
meaner,
less fatty cast tonight.
less snarky.
Yeah, so this is Dan, and I'm joined tonight by
Scott Reed.
And it is just us.
That's it.
So, cream of the crop this time. That's all you need.
Quality over quantity.
That's right. So, we're going to be talking about a few different things this episode. We got a lot of movie stuff news coming up this year. We got a lot of superhero movies coming out per usual. Doesn't seem like as many as there usually are. Especially the way Marvel and everybody's been cranking them out. And we want to talk about, later on, we're going to talk about a Wonder Woman story too.
To celebrate her 80th, right? 80th?
79th, actually.
79th,
That's kind of a weird thing. We'll get into that
Oh, that's
later.
right. They're actually doing it for the 750th issue.
50th anniversary issue. Not so much
Yeah.
the anniversary like they're doing with the other characters this year, and they've been doing with Batman and Superman the last couple of years. So there's that. But I guess we want to get into some of this movie stuff going on.
Sounds
we got
good.
a bunch of new trailers out right now. We have a trailer for Morbius that came out a couple weeks ago now as we're recording this, but we haven't been recording, talk about it yet. We're a little behind, but what did you think of that Morbius trailer?
So I guess my first thought on it is just the fact that it actually it seemed pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So I think the big shock to me was they had the actor Jared Harris in it. Now I went to IMDb and looked at his, who he's supposed to play. And they don't have what role he's even playing listed.
Right.
But he's just one of those actors you see in movies, and he feels like he's a quality actor.
Yeah, he was really good on Mad Men. He was on there. That Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows. He was Moriarty on that.
That's
He was
right.
good in that.
He's in the Expanse. For sci-fi / Amazon.
I haven't been disappointed in anything I've
No.
seen him in. So that's pretty good.
So that really gives me hope for the movie, and I think Jared Leto is a decent actor despite his role his performance as the Joker.
I liked his Joker.
So I didn't care too much for his Joker, but I just didn't care for much of that movie. So maybe it's the movie,
right?
Tainted me on that portrayal. But like him in Blade Runner 2049 and those movies, I thought he seems like a pretty solid actor.
My concern with this, after watching this, while watching the trailer, was, okay, this is Jared Leto. Where's Morbius?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then at the end, we get the shot of him, the sort of white skin, more vampire looking. Right. It's a quick flash at the end kind of thing to hook you in. But I was like, are we getting Morbius in this, or just a guy? It's like 90s flashbacks.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Where you'd get comic book movies in the 90s where, because of budget or biases against comics or whatever, you got these really watered down,
like the Punisher, where he never ever has the skull
Yeah.
on. I remember reading on the first Punisher movie, the Dolph Lundgren movie, where somebody suggested, well, can we just put a skull on his knife? And they said no. And it's just like, really, you can't even do that to do some homage back to the actual character.
Yeah, but see, it was just that mentality back then, which we seem to be over now. Marvel's done a lot to kind of eradicate that over the years.
There's a lot of evidence of good storytelling in comic books now that there always has been, but now it's just been accepted that there's good storytelling in comics.
And that these things work for these characters. They've been trying them out for 80 years, and this is what works, you know. So Hollywood's finally catching up to that. So, the kind of big surprise at the end of the Morbius trailer, though, is Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Who, as you said, on IMDb is not listed as a certain character.
No.
I feel like we all know who he's playing.
Yeah.
In this.
So
if you saw Spider-Man, you know who he is.
So I guess the question becomes, is that his entire, show up in the film, or are we going to get a little bit more of him?
I don't need him to be throughout the movie, but I want a little bit of Michael Keaton. You don't just bring him in for 2 seconds.
No, but who knows?
But
at least
I'm
they're
hoping,
adding him to the universe, right?
Or do we think they're still trying to set up a Sinister Six?
I would hope that they would plan something
why
like
wouldn't
that.
you at this point, especially when you're getting these standalone Spider-Man movies that are doing well enough that they're making another one. And who was they're talking about doing a third one? I cannot think of who it was supposed to be now. I thought we heard an announcement of another Spider-Man villain movie.
I don't remember who it was. So, well, we got Venom 2 down the
Venom
road.
2. I thought there was somebody else though, that they were talking about the other day.
Well, if there is, I don't know. Yeah, if there is, I don't know what it
going
is.
Around.
Yeah.
I'll think of it tomorrow.
Tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So, or you can, when we post about this on Facebook, you can put in the comments, "Hey, that movie that you were trying to think of
dummy.
was." So, like the other actor, I don't think we actually saw this actor in the preview. Was Matt Smith is going to be in this?
He's in there real quick.
Is he in there real quick?
Matt Smith.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not in there too long. But
Okay, all right. So I just missed it then. I guess I didn't watch it too terribly close, but
yeah, I feel like he's gonna get the short end of the stick like he did in Terminator.
well, yeah,
So
he's listed pretty high up though in the credits, so that hopefully he'll have a bigger role than what he had in Terminator.
who do they have him listed as playing?
Okay, so Loxias Crown. So I
don't know
guess
who
there's
that
some
is.
villain that is maybe Crown or something like that. That may be tied in, to the character or to Morbius. It's not something I'm familiar with.
Yeah, me neither. But again, I don't go too hard on the Morbius. Could be somebody from like Spirits of Vengeance 2 or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
It could be a much newer
Midnight
character.
Suns kind of thing from the 90s. Who knows?
I guess the thing, if there's
But
one
again, not a big marquee name character though either.
Yeah. If there's one thing that I'm concerned about from the preview is that they seem to have this pretty serious fixation with Morbius and bats.
I'm cool with that.
Okay, well, see, I
I'm
just
down
feel
with
like,
bats.
I mean, I'm fine with that, but we've kind of seen some of those effects, with
Right.
the person standing in the wave of bats in the, the Batman trilogy, and so I feel like some of that's going to be a little bit overplayed. And I don't remember that
I think
being.
you got to play that just right though too, like because
Yeah.
people will obviously it's a comic book movie. People would immediately make Batman associations with that.
And that's to me, that's part of the problem because
Right.
I don't remember his power set including anything with bats.
I don't either, but again,
Okay, all right.
I haven't read that much Morbius. There could have been a mini series. There was a recent series I think was supposed to be pretty decent. They did maybe around the time of Marvel Now or something a couple of years ago.
But let's see, and then apparently there's going to be a cameo. Well, it's a rumored cameo for J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. And there were some other names. There's one other name here, at least a named character, which is Simon Stroud. And again, that's not a character that I am, not a character I'm familiar with. So I don't really know much about that character. I assume that this Adria Arjona, listed as playing Martine Bancroft, is going to be the love interest for Michael Morbius. But
No, we don't have time to Google all this stuff. How about that?
well, you think we should do a little homework
Yeah,
before we
we
start
got
these
that.
things.
We got
Hey,
that.
I printed out a list of the
We're busy.
cast,
We're
so
making moves.
yeah. But I think I did like the fact that they are going to keep his, he has this debilitating, blood disease, and
I did like that too.
They are bringing that forward into the movie. It seems like it's going to be a good focus of it.
Tying in more to the comic story of it. You know what I mean? So
I feel like we're going to get maybe a fairly true representation, other than the potential bat powers.
yeah.
And I don't in like the whole. There's one scene where he like cuts his hand for blood, and it's almost like there's. Instead of him just finding this thing or developing this cure, it's like they find something mystical that causes this to happen. So I feel like that's a little bit of a tweak to the original origin story, but I'm sure that origin story has been tweaked multiple times anyway.
I'm trying to think. Was Lizard involved with his origin originally?
So it was Amazing Spider-Man 101.
I might be confusing it with the cartoon though too. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So of course, they both were working with animals.
Yeah.
So I guess there is that.
If Josh were here, he could tell me.
I'm trying to envision the cover of 102, which is his second appearance. Amazing Spider-Man 102. I just know that his origin occurs when Spider-Man has the 6 arms.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
So I don't remember if Lizard's on the cover as well, but he might be.
I feel like he was there somewhere, but I might be getting confused with the 90s cartoon
There you go.
where they tied everything together like that.
So, but again, after seeing it, I actually feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I've got pretty decent hopes for it.
Yeah, because when I first hear, they're doing a Morbius movie with Jared Leto, I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see that. Never, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, they're doing it. So
I didn't even see on the IMDb page they don't have a release date for the movie, and then I have this list of stuff that's coming out in 2020. It's not on my list
weird.
for 2020 either.
Well.
So I don't know do we know what the release date is for that? Do you remember?
I thought I heard, but yeah, I can't remember what it is. Again, there's so much stuff coming out. It's hard to keep all this stuff straight right now.
I'm gonna try to do a quick
so,
search.
So early in the year, everything
Yeah.
can still change at this point.
I'm gonna try to do a quick search here and see if we can find out what the release date is. So I guess the comment, like the big question is like, are you more excited for the movie now that you've seen the trailer, or less excited?
Absolutely more excited for it.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of the way I feel.
And
It's like
I don't, you know, again, I still haven't seen the first Venom movie, but it's like I was disappointed we weren't getting a Spider-Man cameo. I feel like this can stand on its own. I feel like you don't necessarily need Spider-Man in this one.
No.
You know what I mean? Especially when you're seeing kind of the journey he's taking to find a cure, and then you'll have the thing of him turning into the vampire, and maybe there's the mentor character or something like that throughout, you know. So I feel like you've got enough story here. You've got a character who can kind of stand on his own 2 feet, you know, with this.
Yeah, and
So-
I agree with that. Okay, so if this is correct, then it says Morbius is coming out July 31st, 2020.
Okay.
Because they're actually talking about before I found that, I found the DVD release date. So I was like, okay, that's a little bit crazy, but the first date that I find is July 31st, 2020.
Okay.
So
as of January, that's
yeah.
the release date.
yeah, we'll assume that the internet is correct because everything is true.
That's right.
On the internet,
Always.
So
Especially if you hear it here.
yeah, I did like that like you mentioned that final scene where you actually see him as Morbius, and
Yeah.
I feel like that shot is something that was pulled directly, like it felt exactly like a comic book image.
Oh yeah.
So that made me feel pretty good about that too. So, but yeah, I think I'm kind of excited for it. So, and what's funny is Morbius wasn't listed. I had printed out this list of movies that were
Yeah.
coming out this year, and Morbius wasn't on the list.
Yeah, we got a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Another thing, I don't know what the odds are of this, but I always liked in the ultimate version of Morbius, his eyes would glow red in the dark. And it was kind of a subtle thing they did with the coloring. It was a cool effect. I kind of hope they do that in the movie. I don't know. I didn't really see it in the trailer, but you don't see him as Morbius that much.
Yeah, I didn't see
But
it either.
again, be something cool to throw in that would look good visually, you know. Just that's my input to the Morbius movie. If anybody's listening,
anybody listens,
we're
cares.
working on post.
Yeah, I'll post add in that CGI effect. So just get you. And one other thing that's cool in the IMDb, they do actually give credit to Roy Thomas and Gil Kane
Nice.
for creation of the characters. So
Cool.
they didn't do that for any
Yeah,
of the.
we'll probably see their names in the credits too in the movie.
Oh yeah, almost certainly. So I think
Yeah.
Marvel does a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
So the IMDb didn't list anything for Claremont and Bob McLeod. Who else did the first New Mutant story? It was Claremont and McLeod, and somebody else was on the art. I can't remember. Maybe it was just Bob McLeod
I
on
think
the
it
art.
might have been McLeod. just at
I know he at
first.
least did inks, so I can't remember if he was the primary. Regardless, hopefully they'll get some credit for that as well.
I'm sure there'll be something in there. There's usually a pretty long list of creators on the Marvel movies if you stick around. I mean, we're all sticking around to watch the credits anyway. You might as well check them out.
And it's funny, like
know.
sometimes the list for creators has gotten so long on the Marvel movies. It's
Yeah.
like some of the creators say, "I don't know why I've got a credit in
Yeah,
there."
but hey, you're in there, you know.
Yeah.
At least it's better than the alternative. So that we got for so long. I'm just thrilled to see Bob Kane and Bill Finger now.
Oh yeah.
Too, so.
that's a good one. Hopefully we'll see that. Which I guess would segue into, you want to talk about the Batman next?
Let's talk about the New Mutants
Okay,
trailer
all right.
first.
Well, there you blew the segue. So.
Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, we got a new Mutants trailer.
Yeah, the one that I guess I had thought that this was going to go straight to Disney Plus or
I think
straight to
a
DVD.
lot of people were thinking that. I think it's probably also an issue of how much money is put into this, you know. So because again, it's a heavy effects movie, you know,
Right.
and
Of course, you
I
couldn't
don't
tell
know.
that from the trailer that it's a super. I mean, there's a few effects in the
Yeah.
trailer, but it's not as heavy as like any of the
yeah,
Avengers
this isn't going to
movies.
be Endgame for
Yeah,
sure.
No.
But again, with Disney's acquisition of Marvel and all that, and Fox and,
And
all
Fox,
that
and
going
ultimately
on,
Fox,
it's just,
yeah.
But it's just like, where does this thing end up in the shuffle? I've heard stories online of people talking about Fox movies being shuffled to the bottom of the schedule or taken off. They were in development, so it's like. Again, I think this one was pretty far along, and have they done reshoots on this and stuff? Was there some of that with this?
I've heard that there were multiple reshoots.
Yeah, so there's probably more money
more money put into it, sunk
this
into it.
than, you know.
Well, it's funny. Like in a lot of industries, it's like, is it cheaper to shelve it, or is it cheaper to go ahead and release it and go that way
Well,
with
quick
it? So,
quick segue to the '90s Fantastic Four Roger Corman movie.
Right.
There's the documentary that's on Amazon Prime called Doomed that goes into some of that and some of the sort of
shady
sleight
underside.
of hand.
Yeah,
They were pulling with that movie. So if you haven't seen that documentary, check it out. It's really worth watching.
Yeah, it is really
watch,
good.
And watch the movie if you can find it. Too.
Yeah.
It's worth watching.
You can only get a bootleg though, right? So,
I wouldn't know anything about that,
No.
Scott.
I'm sure it's not on YouTube someplace.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah, but what's bad is like the thing like looks as good there as he did in the one that eventually came out. I think. So.
I don't know about that.
Well, okay, all right.
I feel like I remember back when this was still supposed to come out, seeing like a write up about it in Wizard magazine, and they had a shot of the cast, or it might have been Comic Scene actually. It might have been that long ago. And I was like, this looks like a high end, and I'm like in high school or whatever thinking this. This looks like a high budget Saturday Night Live sketch. That's what it looked like.
But yeah, so if you don't know the whole story about that film, basically what it boils down to is they quote unquote filmed the movie just so they could retain the rights and never ever intended to
And they
release it.
finished the movie so that Fox would have to buy it out from under, because Fox wanted the rights, and so Fox would have to pay them to kill the movie basically,
Right.
and so they could be able to say, hey, we have a finished movie here.
Yeah.
So Fox would have to pay them more to kill it.
So anyway, back to New Mutants. Right.
Again, I'm not the biggest New Mutants fan. When I heard there was a New Mutants movie, I'm like, okay, whatever. I do like this sort of horror concept they're doing with it.
I absolutely like the horror concept.
This is learning the right lessons from Deadpool. Mm-hmm. Because Deadpool went in a crazy R-rated, super violent direction. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's kind of concerned is Hollywood's going to learn the wrong things from this and just make super violent action comedies. This is like, no, take the superhero genre in a different direction.
Exactly.
And that is what they've done with this, it looks like.
That's part of like this not actually being originally a Marvel movie. That's part of what has, in my opinion, has made the Marvel movie so successful, is that you have a Marvel movie that's an action movie, and then you have a Marvel movie that's a bank heist movie, like with Ant-Man, and you have, Ant-Man and Wasp, which is really a car chase movie.
Right.
And you have all these different genres that they just have genres that they have just put around a superhero film. Winter Soldier, is a spy movie.
Yeah.
And this is now we're getting a Marvel, horror movie.
Yeah.
So it's
and it might be the only one we get for a while, because the director left Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay,
and,
that's right.
over creative differences, and he kept saying this is a horror movie, and now it looks like they're walking that back.
Okay.
So we'll see where that goes.
The cast for New Mutants looks pretty good. So probably the biggest name is Maisie Williams. Most people will know her from Game of Thrones and/or Doctor Who. Doctor Who, right? Yeah. So now, can she act? I thought she was fine in Game of Thrones. I thought she did a good job in Doctor Who. But I'm a little concerned with her and there's another actor the same way, it's more one of those flavor of the month.
Right.
I'm not convinced with her accent, so she's gonna be playing Ron Sinclair, Wolfsbane, and so I don't know about her accent, but we'll see what happens, right? The other actor I'm kind of concerned about is Charlie Heaton, and I can't remember which character, the name of the character was that he played on Stranger Things.
He's the older brother.
Yeah,
but I can't think of his name. There's so many names on that show.
But again, was he chosen just because of Stranger Things, or does he actually have legitimate acting chops? So. Yeah. And then some of these other names I'm just not familiar with.
And has he talked in the trailers?
Because
Cannonball's got a pretty thick Southern accent.
Southern accent, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't remember that, but maybe he hasn't talked. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember any words, but I've only watched that trailer one time.
Right.
So.
But like even in the first one, I can't remember anything now. So we'll see. But yeah,
the other ones I'm not familiar with. So you got Anya Taylor-Joy playing Magic. You have, Blue Hunt playing Daniel Moonstar, Henry Zaga playing Sunspot, and
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Sunspot, because typically, his effect on the powers is like this two-dimensional silhouette kind of look, which works for a 2D comic book. But like, how do you translate that to a movie? So we'll see what they do with that.
I'm pretty sure, based on from reading New Mutants, that's going to be the character that I like the least. And if it actually is the character I like the least, I think that means they succeeded in portraying that character properly. Because he's kind of like that snotty, arrogant.
Yeah, I feel like Peter David pulled that off really well in X Factor with Quicksilver, like during the '90s run he had with that. There's one issue in particular, I think it's like 87 or something like that, where they're all like in therapy basically. And you kind of, Quicksilver, you hear like his rationale for his personality, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that's a really good issue. And we have it here at Campus Comics if you want to come pick it up for probably $1, but it's a good story.
So there's your hot pick for the week.
Check that out.
I guess so. It looks like now. I guess we have a little shot of the Demon Bear, which is part of Daniel Moonstar's backstory. What was it? New Mutants 18, I think, is that
that's
the appearance of that character?
Definitely the Bill Sienkiewicz stuff, right?
Yes,
With the Demon Bear and all that.
It's early on. Now, is it just a dream sequence, or is it actually part of the story? That's kind of the big question.
I mean, I feel like I'm not holding my breath out for a sequel to this movie right now.
No.
That's not saying it won't be good, but I'm like, you better give me a Demon Bear if you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Because, you're not going to get a second opportunity, I feel like, if you don't, play all your cards in this movie.
What else to say about it? I'm trying to think of anything else that kind of jumped out at me or surprised me in the
Doctor
trailer.
I know from something, but I can't think of what. But I remember her being good.
Yeah, Alice Braga is the name that I have down. But if you really want to know, I can try to look her up. But
I'll think of it later as I'm going to bed tonight or something. But
I have this tendency to just look at the characters and not look at the people who are playing the characters. Anytime I'm watching a movie and I realize oh, that's that person from such and such,
right,
then that often throws me out of the movie. It's that's why I did not really enjoy Venom. Because the character who plays the super intelligent female doctor in Venom was the same character who played Mona Lisa on Parks and Rec, and that's and it's I just couldn't I couldn't accept it.
It just depends, and again, it's a lot about skill on the actor's part too. Of how you can get away from that. But again, that goes back to Michael Keaton playing Batman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Most people didn't like that idea.
Were about Mr. Mom is playing Batman. Come on, But I was like, that's Beetlejuice playing Batman. That's gonna be fine. So when I was 9 years old, but yeah.
So I don't know. I'm actually feeling pretty good about the New Mutants movie.
I'll go see it. It's a Marvel movie, you know what I mean? But I'm not invested in the New Mutants.
No, so it's they can take some risks and do some great stuff or crazy stuff with it, and characters can die, and it's not going to really affect the what's going on in Marvel Cinematic for several years.
Something else I had forgotten about was the other day somebody from Disney, or it may have been what's that D23 organization, the fan club kind of thing, right? Man, this is why Matt needs to be here. So there was some announcement the other day saying, "Oh, we have New Mutants coming out, the first Mutants movie from Marvel or something like that." Mm-hmm. But I think people were saying they're probably misspeaking and saying that this is not tied into the continuity of the Marvel Studios movies. But that's kind of how this release made it sound. Okay. But it's probably someone at Disney getting their wires crossed a little bit.
Well, it feels like the movie itself is so isolated. Yeah. It doesn't really care about what's going on in the world around.
Even in the rest of the X-Men movies, from what we're seeing in here.
It is totally self-contained, so you don't have to worry about what the rest of the world's impact is on this. Yeah. So,
but
I could easily fit in.
Yeah, I guess it could, but
it's probably not.
I don't see this is how Disney introduces mutants into the MCU.
No, yeah. Well, I think somebody was actually in the shop earlier talking about that. hey, phase 5. They're talking about mutants in phase 5. So we've got several years before we get to phase 5.
What they need to be talking about is FF.
Well,
they need to be going
both.
over.
They really need to talk about both.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So anyway, no, I think this looks like it's going to be pretty good. Yeah. So if as long as these actors that I have some concern about can pull it off, then I think it's got a chance to be actually a really, really enjoyable movie. I feel like the actor choice
is the villain just Evil Doctor?
I think so.
Because I don't really see any other kind of villain in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess just the environment.
Yeah, that could be too.
One thing I don't want this to be is just that they get to the end of the movie and all of these, horror elements that we've seen have just all been in their minds the entire time. I want it to actually be.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Will.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, that will be a cop out. I do not want that.
Yeah, you get to that last, the big scene, and they're all still laying in their beds with electrodes on their brains.
I'll tell you what I hate worse than that is the who knows what it is, cop out writing. I can't stand that. That's why I don't watch that many horror movies. It's because of that nonsense. Be creative. Come up with an ending.
Come up with a reason for this stuff.
Come up with a rationale for your nonsense.
So I guess this is scheduled to come out, April 3rd? I think it's what it actually said in the trailer. So April 3rd.
Coming up.
So, 3 months, January, February, March, April. Yeah, so a little less than 3 months. We're actually closer to 2. So,
Yeah.
so I know I'm also looking forward to this one. So definitely, I'm looking forward to this one more than I'm looking forward to the next superhero movie that's coming out. So. I don't know. You want to talk about the rest of the movies for 2020?
Yeah, for 2020, let's go through that. So we got Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
And the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn is the official title.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the add-on.
Yeah. So again, we got a new trailer for that recently. I'm really liking that trailer. I like the security guard cop, whatever, getting shot and confetti coming out. I don't think that's really confetti coming out. I think this is how Harley Quinn is perceiving the world. And I think that's a cool idea. We also have her walking away from an explosion with a lot of fireworks and stuff like that going off. So I think we're going to get the world through her eyes sort of creative scenes in here is what I'm hoping for anyway. Again, I don't need Cassandra Cain turning into the Jean Grey of the DC universe. Give her a code name. I know. I get you may not want to call her Batgirl, but you can call her Black Bat, or you can call her Orphan, or she's had these other names, these other identities. Let's do that.
What we got? Rosie Perez as
Renee Montoya.
We'll hopefully
again,
we'll see the question.
Also came from the animated series like Harley Quinn. So
okay.
We have Huntress in there.
Is it the Bertinelli Huntress, or is it different?
I would think it is, but like they haven't said. But I can't imagine she's the Earth 2 daughter of Golden Age Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
I can't imagine they do that. I'd be awesome if they did.
Yeah, but that opens up the whole DC multiverse,
sure.
and they can't get a single verse going yet. So let's.
Maybe that's just what we do. Maybe we just shift over to the next universe and keep what we want. Maybe they'll actually do that Flashpoint movie.
Well, I have personally have very low expectations for this movie. I'm not a big fan of this particular version of Harley myself, but I'm still kind of stuck in the animated series version of Harley, and that's not what this is. This is kind of like that middle ground between the animated version, whereas like in Arkham Asylum games and stuff, where you first got that intensely insane slutty version of Harley Quinn. I think they're trying to find some middle ground with that character and not be too cutesy and not be too the other end.
What's nice is the Harley Quinn cartoon on the DC universe has handled this really well, it turns out.
Oh, really?
Is we have classic, again, spoilers for a show we didn't say we were going to talk about on here, but you kind of get classic Harley there at the beginning, but then when she leaves Joker, that's when she decides she needs a new look, and it's more like New 52 Harley.
Okay.
And I feel like
Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti.
That's a good kind of breaking point for that. Yeah, and a story reason and everything. I feel like that's been handled really well. The people on that cartoon have been talking about too, where it looks like they're going into some of the same themes that will be in this movie.
Okay.
My thing is too, why don't we just do a Harley Quinn movie? Why do we need the Birds of Prey at this point? And we're throwing a lot of characters in here, and it's like, I'm glad we're getting Renee Montoya and the Huntress in a movie and stuff like that. That's fine, but like, just do a Birds of Prey movie,
right?
You know?
And there was talk of just a Birds of Prey movie at one time. Unfortunately, and I don't know. I think there's a little bit of politics, involved in this decision. It's like, you've heard a lot of actors and actresses talking about we need to get that 50-50 split of male-female roles and stuff. And this just may be one of those things where DC's trying to let's up the female count of heroes, and let's just to kind of even things out. And that's fine as long as they can deliver a solid movie. And that's my concern is like, if they're doing it just to up the count, there's less likelihood they're going to deliver a solid movie.
The other thing, too, with this new trailer I really liked is we saw Black Mask wearing a black mask. Oh, that was driving me crazy about that last trailer. I'm like, he better have, that's his name, and they're calling him Black Mask. Like, he better have a mask in here. And it's sort of the newer sort of Arkham Origins game version of it, which looks really good. I didn't think we were going to get original 80s OG Black Mask, but there's a great story behind that, and I don't know if they'll tie that into the movie, where he carved the mask out of his father's coffin. Like, that's where the mask, literally comes from. I doubt they get into that in this movie. But again, they might. But again, Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. And here's the other thing, too. The other day that someone came out and said that he will be portraying Black Mask as gay. I've read just about every Black Mask story. I don't remember that ever coming up either way.
Yeah,
does that serve the story?
In my opinion, no. Right? It's like, and that would
are
be
we
a case
getting into that?
And that would be a case of like, okay, we're gonna force some politics just to make it, appeal, to a certain genre.
But like, is anyone going to care at the end of the
don't-
day? I mean,
I don't think so.
Do we
That
need,
shouldn't
like-
define. They shouldn't define the character. Define the movie.
yeah, I mean, there's also the thing of like vilifying gays that happened for so long. You got to be careful with that stuff too. That's the other side of that. We don't necessarily need that. But again, it's like, how does that even? Okay, that's fine, but does it matter? We'll see.
But I don't have high hopes for this movie.
I'm getting there with it. After that last trailer, I'm definitely looking forward to it more, and I see maybe some creative decisions that probably they couldn't show off until post production on this movie with the effects and stuff like that. So we'll see. Again, I don't know how I feel about the Birds of Prey in here, or how they're. Again, give me some costumes.
Yeah.
You're spending money, just make a
some
Huntress
costumes.
costume.
And
Give
it's not
Batgirl
like
something.
the Questions costume is that over the top.
Oh yeah,
I mean
no.
seriously.
And here's another thing: we're talking about problems with the horror tropes. I'm getting sick of these superhero origin movie tropes where we don't get a costume or a mask until the big fight at the end.
Yeah,
I'm getting
yeah.
tired of that. That's driving me nuts. That's why I hope Morbius is Morbius
More-
throughout that movie.
At least a good portion. I mean, I know we got to get
Yeah.
his origin, but how long is that going to
I
take?
know.
So, well, we already talked about Bloodshot like a couple of podcasts ago. That's coming out
Some
March 13th.
New trailer with that though too the other day.
Oh, really?
And like there's supposed to be more of him looking like
Looking like Bloodshot. so,
like
okay.
pale skin Bloodshot. So.
And
And here's the thing: I'm getting a little bit more excited about that just because I don't care about Bloodshot.
Exactly. It's the same way.
I've got no stakes in this.
And what's crazy is most of the Vin Diesel movies I've watched, I've actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
So now I haven't watched any of the Fast and the Furious movies.
Well, we're
So,
getting 9 coming
Yeah.
up soon, apparently.
And I haven't watched the first 8, and I don't really plan on it.
Binge it.
Yeah. No.
That's what they need. They need a movie marathon in the theaters for all the Fast and Furious
gosh.
movies.
But stuff like Pitch Black and stuff like
Yeah.
that, he's been pretty good.
Iron
There's some-
Giant.
Yeah, there you go. So, so I don't know. I'm looking more forward to Bloodshot than I am Birds of Prey.
Okay,
So, I mean,
I'm not down with that, but that's your opinion. But it's just like I'm not gonna get offended.
Yeah.
Like that's not my Bloodshot.
Exactly, because
That-
I don't
will
have
not
a
be-
Bloodshot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In the same way, okay, so April 3rd, we already talked about New Mutants, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the same way. I enjoyed New Mutants whenever I read it early on,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not somebody that's like they're not my top 20 favorite characters, so they can take some liberties as long as it is liberties for a good story.
The other thing too, just from I guess when I grew up, I feel like I'm also surprised we're getting original New Mutants in this movie and not the later Rob Liefeld version,
yeah.
which was super popular and turned into X-Force. You know, so I'm a little surprised that's what we're getting. So there's that too to be said for it.
And then, of course, in May, we've got Black Widow.
And that'll be coming out. Marvel always has a Marvel movie come out the weekend of Free Comic Book Day.
Do you think they, which way do you think that runs? Do you think they do it because it's Free Comic Book Day, or you think that's just...
It's always been coordinated. The first Free Comic Book Day was the weekend of Spider-Man.
Okay,
you
all
know,
right.
back in the day. So
Okay, all right. So they've always
it's-
tried to do that.
yeah.
Okay.
DC,
So that's May
DC has
1st.
never planted their flag that weekend. So there's that.
And then we've got the... Now, we haven't really talked too much about... Did we talk about the Black Widow? We did a little bit, yeah.
Well, man, I remember talking about it in the store. I can't remember if we talked about
Okay.
the podcast or not
Well,
now.
we can talk. Okay.
But, yeah.
My biggest concern for Black Widow at this point, based on the trailers I've seen, is David Harbour. He's one of those guys I'm not convinced is a good actor. You know, he was fine for what he did in Stranger Things, but he
Right.
was not good as Hellboy in the Hellboy
See,
movie.
that's the thing. I still haven't seen Hellboy. But the other thing is, I don't feel like this is Red Guardian at his prime. I don't think this is peak. Supposed to be like Russian Captain America. I think this is after the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm assuming we still haven't really said if this is a period piece or not, have
Right.
they?
No, they haven't. But it's
That
definitely
would-
he's definitely post his action.
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, maybe David Harbour is the guy you get for that. We'll see.
And David Harbour's one of those actors who just always plays the exact same character. You know,
Yeah.
it's like he's the same character in every single thing. So sometimes people are good that way, sometimes not so much. So and I feel like they're stealing jokes. Like the joke that's in the trailer for Black Widow is taken straight from The Boys. Whenever you have the
what was
red
that?
there's a Russian superhero in The Boys.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, he squeezes into his costume that's
Right.
no longer
Yeah.
right, you know, and that's like that joke's been done in
Right.
some places fairly prominent.
Yeah.
So Marvel's
Man,
got
I
enough
hope,
back material they don't have to steal from there.
Sidebar, I hope the boys show goes long enough till we get that character on the show. That'd be great. But back to Black Widow.
Back to Black Widow. But that was my only thing to add on
I
Black Widow.
hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, again, again, it's Marvel. You kind of know what you're getting. I'm sure it'll be a good movie.
And I think it looks pretty good. So,
Yeah.
June.
I hope
4th.
you know what. I hope at the end of that movie, Taskmaster gets a better outfit and doesn't look like a paintballer.
Well, they're using his. There was a second Taskmaster outfit. So you had the original with the cape and the face, and then there was a later costume like in that miniseries, that 4-issue miniseries, where it looked more like that paintball style. Yeah, I would like to see the classic Taskmaster.
I want something closer to the classic.
But the thing about it is that the original was basically taken from the costumes of other heroes, and that's not the costumes that they're using in the movies.
Do an amalgam of those characters'
Yeah.
costumes then.
Well,
you
and maybe
know.
that's what we got.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about that look, but we'll see. Again, they've done so well updating these characters' costumes. I feel like they had dropped the ball at that, but we'll see.
June 4th, we've got Wonder Woman 1984. We
Yeah.
definitely have talked about
We
that
have talked
one,
about
so,
that. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see.
I am as
I want to
well.
know what the deal is with Steve Trevor.
Yeah, how does
know.
he show back up? So, Morbius, July 31st. All right, and then October 2nd, I think this is correct.
As far
but
as we
we've
know right now.
So Venom, the second Venom movie is going to be out. I haven't seen any trailers or even any stills from
Yeah,
that.
and I haven't seen the first movie, so
Okay.
there's
I
that.
don't feel like you're missing much.
That's kind of what I've heard.
But
I mean, I'll get around to it eventually, kind of thing. But
it's one of those where you could say you'll have people say it's not my Venom, right? Because
Really?
because it's not. Yeah, I mean they skip the villain part and just go straight to the
Anti-hero.
anti-hero. So
see, I feel like again what I was saying earlier. I feel like Venom is one of those characters you kind of need Spider-Man in there for. He is a evil, bizarro mirror reflection of Spider-Man. So again, I don't know how well they pulled that off because I haven't seen the movie, but it seems pretty integral to me.
and then the last movie, as far as we know, for 2020 is The Eternals, which is November 4th.
It's starring Kumail Nanjiani's abs, apparently. He got jacked for this movie. If you've been on social media,
I've only seen a few stills from this one.
again, this is another one. They can kind of do what they want with
Exactly.
this. No one's going to be like, "That's not my Eternals."
Right, yeah. There's they're doing a lot of gender swapping with these characters,
Yeah.
but that's fine. I mean, there's nothing that says like Makari or Mercury, whichever way you want to pronounce it. I think there's a gender swap there. I think most people were expecting Angelina Jolie to be playing Cersei, but she's in fact playing Artemis. Is it Artemis? That's not right.
Icarus?
No, not Icarus. Maybe it is Artemis, or it's the Artemis translation to the Eternals, the one that in the comics has a relationship with Crow, the deviant. Anyway,
Sure.
Okay, so I think people were surprised by that. At least I was. Let me take it back. I was surprised by that. And this is another one of those cases though where we've got Kit Harington, Game of Thrones actor.
Oh, yeah.
Can he actually act? So I guess we're gonna find out. I've seen him. He was in like a Silent Hill movie. There's some British TV show which I haven't watched that's available on Netflix. I keep thinking I need to watch this just to find out if he actually is a decent actor or not.
I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I know who you're talking about, but I don't know that I've seen him in anything either.
Okay, all right. So I'm hoping that because I think Marvel's done a better job of this, of actually generally choosing actors than what DC has.
But again, as I've seen movies lately, it's usually who's that? It's usually someone from Game of Thrones that they've thrown in because that show was so popular. And it's like, ooh, I'm not convinced that this show survived on the strength of its actors.
No,
it
was the plot. I mean, it definitely was the plot that drove the Game of Thrones. That's why there was so much hate at the end of Game of Thrones because, they didn't have the books to base it directly off of, and people didn't like how it ended. So it was more driven by the story. I think it's the same way, a little bit the same way with Walking Dead, but that's neither here nor there. So I guess the question is which of these movies are you most looking forward to? And this is actually tough. This is actually tough for me. Last year it was easy, right? But this year it's a little bit tougher to actually pick one. I kind of almost have to pick two. So
I'm probably gonna go with Wonder Woman 84. I want to see what they do. I want to see Max Lord, how they handle that. Played by the Mandalorian. We actually get to see his face here.
Okay, all right.
I'm interested in the Steve Trevor thing. Where's that going? I want to see Cheetah. I want to see Crystal Wiig as Cheetah, not just wearing a cheetah scarf or something nonsense. Again, that's probably a lot of posts on that, I would imagine. So that's probably why we haven't seen that yet. But out of those, that's probably the one I'm looking for. I mean, Marvel movies, you know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
New Mutants kind of a horror thing, but again, I'm not that invested in it. Bloodshot, I could wait till it's on Fox on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and watch it then.
You
but
know.
yeah.
And again, I haven't seen the first Venom. And Birds of Prey, like, I'm not looking forward to that more than Wonder Woman at this point.
Well, for me, it's actually tough for me to pick which one I'd be most looking forward to. I have a feeling the one I'm going to end up enjoying the most is going to be the Black Widow movie, just because I think it's going to tie to my beloved Marvel Cinematic. So I think we're just going to get more of what we've gotten so far.
Right.
I have high hopes for Eternals, just because I'm hoping they can do Guardians of the Galaxy again.
Yeah, that's the
not
thing.
not the humor side of Guardians
Exactly.
of the Galaxy. So they can actually surprise us with something, and because this is a major Kirby concept.
Yeah.
So I'm actually.
And how is it that we're getting an Eternals movie before a new Gods movie? DC has just dropped. I mean, there's supposed to be one on the way, but man, they have dropped the ball on some of these big ones. We got Thanos before Darkseid. It's like, come on, let's get our act together, Warner Brothers.
Well, I don't know that it was a home run them choosing to go with Thanos early on in the Marvel. The project, it ended up being like a duh. I mean, when you look back and you go duh, but the other thing is that when you have characters that are at that power level, like how much is the non-comic book person going to be able to differentiate the difference between Darkseid and Thanos?
Right.
I mean, like, okay, one is, worships death, the other is in search of the anti-life, but we know there are dramatic differences.
These are abstract concepts too that you have to explain to people.
Yeah, so
this isn't I'm robbing a bank kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's why I don't think we're going to get a Marvel Submariner movie, because they're going to say, oh, well, they're just doing Aquaman, even though Submariner
it's
was
still tied up rights-wise. I think is the real reason, right?
But even if they resolve that, I don't think we're going to get one.
Man, I would love to have him in a.
Oh yeah, because
I feel like he could be an Avengers villain.
Oh yeah,
I think you could definitely have an Avengers villain where they're fighting him in Atlantis, and then the way that character goes, he could be on the team in the next movie.
And that's the thing. It's like he that's that character. I mean, he's going to fight for what he thinks is right, but how he views the world is different than how everybody else views the world. So it's a very interesting character.
Just such a good character that really they could do a lot with in these movies, and I feel like they would.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those characters like Magneto, where like screenwriters have a great time with that character and figuring out cool stuff for him to do. And for a character that is like up against the Fantastic Four, but that he's the hero of his own book, he's trying to get Sue away from Reed. Then he's teaming up with Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do with that character.
But just because of the basic, he's a guy who lives underwater in Atlantis. I think that's too similar.
I feel there's a way to do it for sure.
We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. But the 99.9% of the populace that doesn't read comic books doesn't understand the difference.
We've had Quicksilver and Flash. We've had 2 Quicksilvers and Flash in movies. So I feel like they'll figure it out.
But they're the bit characters. They're minor roles. They're not the major. They're not the major players. So
again, have you heard who the internet's calling to play Namor?
No, I have not.
Keanu Reeves is the name that's been going around because people keep saying, where should Keanu Reeves be in the Marvel MCU sort of thing? And Namor's one that came up. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think I should be talking about Keanu's age at this point, but he'd have to get in, that super physical
Have you seen
condition.
John Wick?
Doesn't he wear a suit through most
He's
of
wearing
that?
a suit, but he's still in pretty good shape.
Well, I'm not
in
saying
this.
that he's not in good shape, but I
Right.
mean, he almost needs to get into like Chris Evans level shape to play that role.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a particular body type, I guess, out there that
Yeah.
you and I are not going to be playing Namor, nor are we
Speak
going to
for
nor are we going to cosplay as Namor.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Especially not the traditional outfit.
Yeah. So that's a tough call. I mean, I think there's the thing about this year is that last year we knew there were going to be movies that were going to be home runs.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not for sure that any of these movies are going to be a home run, but I'm hopeful for several of them that they're going to be really that they're going to be.
Well,
good.
that's the thing. We don't know what we're getting as much as we have in the last couple of years.
And it's kind of nice to not
Yeah,
actually
for sure.
know. It's actually a good feeling. So
Bloodshot
you can be nervous and. Yeah.
I mean, Oscar time next year, we could all be talking about Bloodshot. Who knows?
Vin Diesel for the Oscar.
Yeah. And again, yeah, Eternals, again, it's one of those lower profile books that Marvel just could have a great concept on and take for the movie and could surprise everybody like Guardians did.
Yeah, because that first run of that comic was 19 issues, I think.
Well,
I
it
mean,
wasn't
and an
long.
annual,
Yeah.
and then there was like Neil Gaiman did like a 12-issue limited
Oh, yeah,
series, and there's been
a few
some
miniseries.
yeah, but they've
yeah.
never been, a major part
Yeah.
of the Marvel universe. So they've been there, but never, in a big way.
But again,
so.
not something where everyone's going to be overprotective about, and it gives them a lot of leeway to come up with kind of reinventing the concepts and things like that. So hopefully something that translates well.
Yep. So hopefully crossing my fingers because
Yeah.
I don't want them to screw up something that Kirby did. So.
All right. So
Well-
other movie news
Oh yeah, that's
for
right.
a movie that's not out this year but next will be The Batman,
Right.
starring Robert Pattinson, who I saw The Lighthouse the other day. He was pretty good in that. So I'm sure it's not on your radar.
No.
I can't see you sitting down with the family to watch
I
this.
don't know that I have ever watched a movie that he's even been in.
Yeah, see, I've never watched Twilight.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
that right now.
I definitely
Again,
am not
he's
either.
made some pretty out there acting choices since then. I'm sure that's on purpose on his part.
And for me, I think that's a good thing
Yeah.
because if I had been somebody who watched Twilight, then I couldn't get past that. That
I
role.
haven't watched Twilight. I'm still having trouble getting past that. Because for every Heath Ledger there's a George Clooney.
Right. Yeah.
So, again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially after watching Lighthouse. So today, as we're recording this, they've released basically the full cast list for the
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple of things here.
So-
Some of these are surprising.
Yeah, let's just go through this
You
real
go.
quick. So Robert Pattinson is playing Batman Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe Kravitz is playing Selena Kyle. Everyone here is listed by their secret identity character name too, not like the supervillains.
Right. Yeah.
So Selena Kyle Catwoman. Paul Dano from they have on here Love and Mercy and 12 Years a Slave. He was also in There Will Be Blood as Edward Nashton. Again, Edward Nygma, that's Riddler.
Yeah. Okay.
Jeffrey Wright, who I know mostly from playing Felix Leiter in the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. He was also on Boardwalk Empire and pretty much good in everything I've seen him in. He's playing Commissioner Gordon.
Okay.
And I think he's a good pick. I think he's a really good actor. I think he'll do great in that role.
I feel the one thing that I'm liking about this cast list for Batman is I feel like they've gone away from the flavor of the month
Yes.
actors and actresses and are actually picking people who can act.
Right.
So
Even though none of these were on my fantasy list a few months
Yeah.
ago. John Turturro, we're getting as Carmine Falcone. Little worried about that, not because John Turturro can't do it, but because do we need Carmine Falcone? Because he's really tied into year one. I don't need a Batman origin story here.
okay.
So we'll see, and that's mainly where that character comes from.
Okay, so that's the father, not the son from Long Halloween, or is that the?
Yes.
Okay. I always thought that the son was actually cast as one of the Falcones in this from some stuff we talked about before. So
I'm not sure. I'm not,
that- yeah,
I'm not-
okay.
there's nobody on this list for sure, but there's
Okay.
not saying that he won't be in there. Again, maybe they'll do Long Halloween as a sequel and they'll bring him in there. We have Peter Sarsgaard as Gotham DA Gil Coulson, not a name I'm familiar with. I've been
No.
reading Batman comics for 30 years.
yeah, the list
So
I
I'm-
have
so
doesn't
I'm-
even have his role
Okay,
listed
so
in it.
I'm assuming that's an original character to this. Jamie Lawson as mayoral candidate Belariel. Again, no one I'm familiar with from Batman books.
Okay.
Probably a new character.
Probably a new character. I guess there's going to be some political stuff going on
Yeah.
in this, right? Okay.
Andy Serkis as Alfred.
That seems odd.
It does.
But
Could be good.
could be good, yeah.
Maybe he'll do it mocap. We'll find out. It'll be nice seeing his face in a movie.
Yeah,
I guess
he's-
that's probably good for him.
other than what Claw, I guess. But this is another thing. Is like we have all these characters now that are in there. They have a character in Marvel and they have a
Right.
character in DC.
And I'm glad that they're just letting that be.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're not saying, no, you can't be in here. You are Marvel. Now, again, he got taken out in Black Panther.
Yeah,
He's
right.
probably not going to be any more Marvel movies, but that's fine. And again, we're going to run out of talented actors if we don't allow some crossover here going on.
There have been so many in the Marvel.
Yeah, there have been
movies,
so many of these superhero movies they're making now. And then we have Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin. That's the one I'm really not sure about.
Yeah, I'm
Just first
not
off-
a Colin Farrell fan.
First off, just body type.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's-
mean?
Yeah,
And I feel like this is more of the Batman Telltale game from a couple years ago where they had a younger, trimmer penguin.
okay.
And I mean, it kind of plays into like the portrayal on Gotham too a little bit, where that actor was a thinner guy at first, until basically the last episode. And again, they pulled that off well on Gotham. But again, that's also sort of like a year zero,
Right. Yeah.
basically
Year
story. Not even
negative
year
20.
one.
Yeah.
But again, I want to see Penguin in a top hat smoking a cigarette through a holder.
Yeah, with his umbrella.
Yeah.
And
so we'll see what their take is on that.
hey, and I don't think a single one of these actors was ever on Game of Thrones. So
Oh, nice. Good news for me.
yeah.
So right now that's our cast list for the Batman. And I saw some clickbait article too the other day saying like, oh, and Matt Reeves talks about the start of filming and shows a new logo, and it's like the words on the little clapboard or whatever. I'm like, that ain't the logo. That's just what they're using on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, but like, there's no way that's what's going to be on the movie poster.
I'm actually really starting to look forward to this. Like I said, with the actor choices, I feel like they're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of hopes for this.
And
so,
again, my reservations about Pattinson. People are like, "Oh, you don't think he can play a brooding guy?"
yeah.
Yeah, of course he can. Again, we'll see how that translates to
I
Batman.
learned my lesson on that with Chris Evans, and I think I've said this before, but if initially, when I heard that Chris Evans, the guy who played, Johnny Storm in
Right.
the So Fantastic movie, and I guess he started in Glee or something.
Oh, did he?
I don't know, but it's like if I had really let that bother me, and said, oh, that's not.
I tell you what, he was also in Losers, and he was good in that. That's such an underrated movie in general. Another comic book movie.
And he 100% proved me wrong.
Right.
So I am gonna hope
We
that
we all have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean at this point.
So I'm not gonna say anything. Let's give Pattinson a chance.
I want to see a trailer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll see. There was rumors the other day about we were going to see the bat suit. There hasn't been anything yet. They're talking about it.
Well, there have been some stills that were allegedly the bat suit or something like
Yeah.
that leaked online, but who knows if it's
Yeah.
accurate or not.
We'll see. And again, I want to see a new Batmobile. I don't need something that's a takeoff of the Tumbler. It's time to move on.
Yep. Do something fresh.
Give me something that looks like a Batmobile or is just a new concept on it. We'll see how that goes. Again, it's a Batman movie. I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna get the Bluray.
Every single one of these movies we talked
yeah.
about, from Birds of Prey to Eternals to
Yeah.
all the movies that are coming out in 2021. I'm gonna go see every single one of
Yeah.
them, and regardless of if Aquaman 2 comes out, I'm going to go see Aquaman 2.
Picture of the year.
Yeah.
Calling it now.
But yeah, I won't be as excited about that one. But
Right.
I assume it's going to happen at some
Right,
point.
for
Movies don't
sure.
make $1 billion,
Yeah.
and you don't make sequels for them. So
well, we'll see what happens with Joker.
yeah, that's
You
going to be
know.
an interesting one too. So
Yeah, so we'll see where this goes again. It's a good cast list.
absolutely,
Go back to Colin Farrell's Penguin. Penguin is also a hard part to cast nowadays in Hollywood.
yeah,
Because we talk about this on my day job. Like, this is one of the things we do to pass the time. We are working, but we talk about this stuff.
you can multitask.
Exactly. And so it's like, okay, who would I want to play Penguin? Bob Hoskins. You know,
Yeah.
he can't.
Yeah, no, okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like every guy you come up with is like, oh, he's none.
Danny DeVito. Oh, he's
Yeah.
already done it.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
know, Philip Seymour Hoffman would have made a great Penguin.
yeah,
We
yes,
can't get
but
him.
No, we can't do him anymore.
You know, so again, and even the guys that are kind of big are trimming down nowadays too. I mean, that's good for them. It's good for their health. I get it.
You know who should play the Penguin? Christian Bale. Because he obviously can do
He'll
any body
commit-
type.
he'll
He
commit
will
to
commit 100% to it.
Yeah. So
But wait, he's already been in a
Yeah.
Batman movie. And he's going to be in he's tagged for a Marvel movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I forgot even what movie he's tagged
what were they?
for.
Man, I totally wanted to talk about that on here too, and I totally blanked on that. Google.
Yeah, go for the search. So what we're going to talk about next after we try to look this up is this is the 750th issue of Wonder Woman is now on the shelf, right?
Yep.
So,
Came out last week.
So it came out last
so-
week. So we usually try to around these anniversary or big issues, kind of go through and talk about some stories, related to a particular character. So we're gonna talk about a couple of Wonder Woman stories here. So Christian Bale MCU. There's the search. So and the rumor is if it will pull up for me in I'm spinning on my search for Christian Bale MCU. It doesn't like it. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, is it Thor?
It was Thor.
Thor, Love and Thunder,
Love
right?
and Thunder, right?
Right, because I wanted to play Beta Ray Bill.
Beta Ray Bill. Okay,
That's
there
right.
you go. So, yep. So that would be. I wonder what his body transformation will be like for
He's got
that
turned
one.
into a horse.
Yeah.
No,
Just a horse head.
Again, I don't realistically. No, I don't want to see Christian Bale play Beta Ray Bill.
Because then we'll primarily see Christian Bale and not primarily see
for
Beta Ray
sure.
Bill.
No. And again, you don't want him just to be a voice. I can't. I can't imagine Marvel gets him just for a voice role like that.
Carl Urban, because we know he'll commit to. If his face doesn't be seen for the entire movie, he's okay with that.
Right,
so,
Ray Park.
Yeah, there you go.
I think Tom Payer, the writer, was saying he was calling Thunderstrike for Christian Bale.
Okay.
I like
You
I like
what?
that version of Thor because I read it when I was young.
I tell you what, I will accept that because I'm ready for Hemsworth to be out.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do not like where they're taking
I'm
Thor.
still surprised he didn't die during Infinity War Endgame and all that.
Yeah, so I'm ready for him to be out. So bring on Thunderstrike, bring on Beta
You
Ray Bill.
think they do that after Jane loses the hammer? Maybe at the end of the movie,
Maybe
Christian Bale gets it.
Hey, I'm fine with that. If Hemsworth's done, I
Right.
am in. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
where I stand on Thor.
if you don't know, we're talking about a replacement Thor from the 90s that then became the hero Thunderstrike for his own series for a while. And again, I think it was because it was a shiny cover on the stands when it came out. I picked it up when I was probably 10 or so. So I kind of like that character. But yeah, I can't. Eric Masterson?
that
Is that his
sounds
name?
that is correct. So yeah.
Yeah, so that could be somebody else he's playing in that. Could just be another character that they're going to spin off into another Marvel movie. They'll introduce him in Thor. Who knows?
They could also just do the thing where, he's like for a while Thor took on a human identity like Bjorn or something. I can't remember what it was. He was still Thor, but he didn't look like he lost the Donald Blake side of it. So he was just a human identity. And they could just have him be this character who ultimately becomes Thor. There's no telling. I mean, there's lots of ways that they could adapt that and change that.
Yeah. The other thing too, I was thinking we haven't had Balder in any of this stuff, and I really like
like
that
Balder.
character, and Christian Bale would be a good pick for that. We don't have the Warriors 3 anymore.
No, which is a shame.
Yeah. So
And we still got to figure out what happened to Sif.
Yeah.
So hopefully she'll
She
come
got a
back
TV
at some
show.
point. That's right.
that's what really happened to Sif. So moving on to Wonder Woman.
Yeah, to
so
our Wonder
yeah,
Woman,
so
yeah.
DC has been doing these big anniversary issues around the 80th, but this year we're getting a lot of 80th anniversaries this year, and Wonder Woman 750 came out, so DC has decided to kind of mark that as a big sort of tentpole issue for that character. So we're getting the Decades variants like we got on the Action and Detective 1000s.
I haven't looked real close at the Decades variants. Which one did any of them jump out at you?
The Adam Hughes one is really good, of course, and then there's a good Brian Boland, George Perez issues that they did. We still have most of them here. I think the Jennifer Zahn one sold out pretty quick. There's a nice blank cover. I'm trying to think. I thought there was another one I really liked, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head.
But anyway.
So, as you know, we've done with Batman and Superman, we're going to kind of be taking a look this year, using this as an opportunity to take a look at some like standout stories from these characters over the years. And so that's what we're going to do now for Wonder Woman. And again, the other thing is next year will technically be her 80th anniversary.
Right. We might talk about her again.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure there'll be a whole bunch of stuff next year. They'll just use this as another opportunity to do a bunch of Wonder Woman 80th stuff next year, which will be fine. So we might do this again later. But, for right now, we decided, because I was thinking 1940 was Wonder Woman and Captain America, and they're both 1941.
One, right. Yep.
So
So we got another year. So
Yeah.
I guess the only two Marvel characters that have hit the 80s are Namor and Human Torch.
yeah, which were previous.
which were not.
So the 80th isn't this year,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
It
Yeah,
would have been
still-
last year or so.
Yeah.
Because I've been figuring out what all to talk about this year. So we'll definitely be doing some more of this throughout. We got enough characters coming up.
Oh yeah. So you wanna go first? You want me to
How
go
about
first?
you go first?
Okay.
Since you got your books
All
out.
right, so I've got my books right in front of me. I'll be honest. We said, "Oh, this sounds like a home run. Let's just talk about a Wonder Woman book."
Yeah, that's the thing with Wonder Woman.
And it's like I then struggled with coming up with a Wonder Woman story that was a defining story for Wonder Woman for me. And the first thing that actually popped in my head was New Frontier, and I got to thinking about it. It really wasn't because that's a Wonder Woman story. It was just
Right.
because that's the first time where I ever really noticed that Wonder Woman was really portrayed as an Amazon. So like there's where she's actually bigger than Superman, in size and appearance. So it was just like a little bit different portrayal of her. But one I finally settled on, at least to talk about, was Wonder Woman issues 101 through 104. This is when John Byrne, I can't remember if he had written for Wonder Woman prior to this or not.
I don't think so.
Okay, and I don't know. I really don't even know how long his run lasted on this character.
It lasted quite a while. This is a run I'm trying to collect now. I kind of got it sporadically as it came out, but yeah, it went on longer than you think.
Okay, so anyways, the first story is they're kind of bringing her back. It was funny. So you see in the very first words in this are Gateway City. All right, and then you turn over a couple of pages, and you see these cop cars with GCPD, and I immediately go, "She was just in Gateway City. Why is she in Gotham?"
Right. Well, I can tell what year this story came out because there's a Batman Forever card ad in this, so I think we all know when that.
Yeah. So anyway, this has got John Byrne writing and writing and the artwork on it. And basically what we have is this is kind of they're starting a new era with Wonder Woman, so they're kind of reestablishing, where she fits kind of in the DC universe at this point. And John Byrne's always been good for those types of stories. Superman, Man of Steel was a good story. For sure. So we basically Wonder Woman finds there's a shootout going on between some cops and some robbers, right? But the robbers are particularly well equipped. More so than what they should be. So she goes on to start investigating, what's going on. And lo and behold, ultimately it leads to the fact that all of these criminals are being supplied by Darkseid. What? So it was kind of great to get a John Byrne Darkseid story. I believe he has a lot of respect for Kirby and the Kirby characters. It still is It's not quite as silly as some of the Darkseid stories that we have, but it's like, really, why would Darkseid waste his time, equipping, your common criminal inside of Gateway City? But yeah, it's not the brooding portrayal that we have in the more modern versions. Of Darkseid. But we do learn that it all is part of a plan for Darkseid. He wants to capture Wonder Woman because ultimately what he actually wants is the location of Paradise Island, so Themyscira. So we've got some good fight scenes. You've got a dream fight scene with Superman and Wonder Woman, but basically, he's torturing Wonder Woman, trying to get the information out. There's this random cop that's tagging along that basically becomes the sidekick. I don't know if it's intended to ultimately be a Steve Trevor replacement for the character or not. They never, in these issues, they never ever develop into any relationship. But ultimately, Darkseid realizes that he's not going to be able to force Wonder Woman to give up the location. And then, of course, when you have Darkseid, the other new gods eventually have to get involved. So we got Metron showing up finally, and it kind of gives a history of some of the origins of Apocalypse and New Genesis. So you kind of, if you weren't familiar with who the new gods were, you get a little bit of that. But then now I'm struggling now. So Darkseid actually does determine the location of Paradise Island, sends all of his parademons and stuff in, and they kill about half of the Amazons. Ultimately, what's kind of interesting in this first story is that it ends up basically in a stalemate. Darkseid says, I'm not going to be able to defeat you all with the forces that I have, so I'll just go home. So it's there's no winner, there's no losers per se. So you kind of expect Wonder Woman to have that big victory, and then they deal with kind of the aftermath of the of the loss of nearly half of the Amazons. So anyway, it's a pretty good story. Obviously, I guess I liked it since I chose it. You got John Byrne. I've always liked John Byrne as a creator. I think he typically does a good job respecting the history that these characters have. And it is definitely something it's a pretty good run. So if you've got no place else to start reading about Wonder Woman, then starting with the Byrne run might be a pretty good place to go to.
Yeah, and again, to kind of what Scott was speaking about earlier, is Wonder Woman doesn't really have a Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean. There aren't these standout stories. Again, this was another one I thought about because I read the early part of the Byrne run. There's also the Hikatea out there where she fights. She comes into conflict with Batman. But again, I feel like that's one, like, if you're looking up top 10 Wonder Woman stories, that's on every list.
Yeah.
You know, so
You could always choose a Wonder Woman origin story, right? To be a story that's like a great Wonder Woman story.
Right.
But, you know, for a character to actually be good, you got to be able to tell a story beyond their origin
and I feel like
story.
it's selling the character short with that too. You know, especially Wonder Woman, who's been around for 79 years.
Yeah. Closing in on 80, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so I tried to dig a little bit for something. I actually did find this on a random greatest Wonder Woman's stories list. And so this is from Wonder Woman number 5 from like 1941. And this story is Battle for Womanhood. And this is by the creator, William Moulton Marston, and H.G. Peter, the original artist. And this story is bonkers.
A lot
So,
of those
a lot of
stories
Golden Age.
are
And again,
bonkers.
this will probably be found in the Wonder Woman Golden Age Omnibus Volume 1 that Mike Atchison was talking about around Christmas time when he was on the show. So this will probably be in that same collection that his Christmas story was that he brought up. So this is the first appearance of Dr. Psycho, the Wonder Woman villain. And,
Remind me to come back to that when you get done.
okay. Who, again, speaking of the Harley Quinn cartoon, is featured on that. He's one of the main characters on the Harley Quinn cartoon.
I did not know
And
that.
has a really funny interaction with Wonder Woman. Oh man. So this story starts out with Mars, not the planet, but the god of war, saying that, like, basically, okay, some of this, some of the issues brought up in this story are still at issues today. And again, there's other things going on in comic and nerd, pop culture communities that we don't need
Marston's
to.
personal life.
Well, not just that, but like there's other things we don't really want to address on this show. But just sort of like the treatment of women. And Mars is basically upset that like women are doing too much. They're not keeping in their place. Again, that's a villain for a Wonder Woman story. And that's kind of why I picked this one, is just sort of the themes throughout this crazy story still kind of resonate today. And it turns out Dr. Psycho's name is Dr. Psycho. Like, Psycho is on his birth certificate, apparently. I just thought it was like
his supervillain name.
Yeah, that he picked. It was super close to the word psycho, coincidentally, like you usually get. But yeah, so he's like a telepath. And so he wants to undermine, oh boy. So he wants to undermine like the war effort, basically, and women helping, working in the factories,
Right.
like the Rosie the Riveter thing. That was such a big thing back then, with all the men going off to war. So Psycho, okay, how do they word this? Directs ectoplasm around his body to create a new form. And the first person he turns himself into is Mussolini. So then he sets up a show where he says George Washington will be here and speak. And so he creates an ectoplasmic double or shell around himself of George Washington. And so George Washington comes out on this stage and talks to everybody and says, I have a message for you, a warning. Women will lose the war for America. Again, we're in the middle of World War II.
Right.
Women should not be permitted to have the responsibilities they now have. Women must not make shells, torpedoes, airplane parts. They must not be trusted with war secrets or serve in the armed forces. Women will betray their country through weakness, if not treachery. And so he predicts that, this attack, or there'll be an accident in one of the factories or something like that. And so people are on guard. And then it's just Psycho sabotaging things, basically, to undermine women in the war effort. And again, pretty on the nose for a villain for Wonder Woman. But again, he kind of keeps going, like George Washington, Dr. Psycho shows up a couple more times, and it's just, people don't give Golden Age stories enough credit. Because there was some crazy stuff. There are reasons this stuff was popular and these characters have endured over the years. So don't blow off a story just because it's old.
Well, and also, I mean, sometimes the content was a whole lot more mature than what you would expect. I mean,
this is pre-code,
pre-code
too.
stuff, exactly. I mean, like the thing I always go to is like in the first Submariner appearance. I mean, he's throwing Germans out the air dock on submarines, and they're obviously dying. You know? And it's like he's killing them. He's not realizing. He even says, "Oh, I didn't realize there was a person inside that." Suit. So anyway, I'm getting off your topic here.
But then again, some accidents do happen, and these women are framed for causing these accidents or stealing secrets and stuff like that. And, oh, man. So this is another thing that I'm not even sure. I know this probably sounds crazy the way I'm talking about this, but this is how this story is. There's a device that I assume they must have set up in an earlier story where Wonder Woman communicates with Steve and other people with, sends them a mental message, but she has this little device that she hooks up to her head, and you can see on the screen the person she's talking to. So it's some sort of telepathic message via this machine. And Etta Candy uses it later in the story, I think, too. Wonder Woman's kind of sidekick character. But eventually she realizes that, oh, this is Psycho in disguise doing all this stuff. And then Psycho uses a machine to capture Wonder Woman's spirit. Like, basically her soul is grabbed out of her body. And he chains it to a wall. And puts Wonder Woman's body in a cage. Again, crazy William Marston, Golden Age Wonder Woman stories.
That didn't go away. I mean, the
yeah,
whole bondage cover
again, there's more of that in here. I'm just not getting into because this story's all over the place. But eventually, Etta and some girls, help her out. She gets free. They all kind of chase off Psycho at the end. But yeah, so there's this other woman throughout the story that Psycho is taking advantage of, and he's using her for her plan. And so in the last panel at the end of the story, basically the moral of the story is this woman is saying, submitting to a cruel husband's domination has ruined my life, but what can a weak girl do? And then Wonder Woman says, get strong, earn your own living, join the WACs or Waves and fight for your country. Remember, the better you can fight, the less you'll have to. Again, I feel like that's basically Wonder Woman's mission statement right there. That's a thesis, for Wonder Woman right there in the last panel of this story. So, yeah, again, probably not something you're going to find on the shelf, but again, that'll be in the the reprint, and I found this digitally on the DC Universe app. Definitely check out some old Golden Age stuff now and then. There's all kinds of stuff in there,
Well, I think all of those first volumes of all those major characters, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all deserve to be, read or at least skimmed at least once.
Especially the Superman. The Superman is really good, and it's like, especially before supervillains, it's like, what do we do with them? Corrupt government officials and businessmen and, all kinds of fun stuff in there, and kind of speaking to the immigrant experience back then and stuff like that.
Yeah, because pretty much the majority of your creators, or the creators that you know by name from those time periods, the majority of them were immigrants or first generation Americans. So they had firsthand experience with that. One of the things about Wonder Woman that it's always bothered me is like when you talk about, okay, you've got a hero and you have their primary villain. It's just like, so you say Superman, you go Lex Luthor, it's like Batman, you go Joker, then you say Wonder Woman, and you go,
I feel like for a long time it's Cheetah, especially because of Super Friends. I feel like maybe 80s, 90s Cersei. Maybe a little bit. But again, it's not as clear cut as it is with everything else.
So
it seems like for merchandising and things like that, it's Cheetah typically is where they go.
But it's just not as obvious for her as it is for other characters, and it's like, I mean, it's pretty cut and dried for most of your other ones, it's like, it's like the name game.
We haven't had Wonder Woman in media like that. And when we have, it's the TV show, which really went all over the place. It didn't stick to the comics that well. So I just feel like, and there wasn't a Wonder Woman animated series, like that. It's just one of those things. Hopefully, the movies will help to rectify some of that. Again, why isn't there a Wonder Woman animated series right now with these movies coming out?
Right.
They've done it for everybody else, and I think even Bruce Timm spoke to the fact that that's really kind of the one they didn't do that they should have done. And I know there were rights issues with the previous cartoon that never happened and stuff like that, where they couldn't for a long time.
And especially since the Wonder Woman movie was better than several of the other DC movies, So.
And with so many platforms out there needing content, let's get something going. Why isn't there a Wonder Woman cartoon? So it should be something out there. They're doing everything else,
And they obviously need to keep this character in print, right? Because
that's part of the deal.
As soon as they go too long without printing her, they lose the rights.
Yeah, that's part of the deal with Wonder Woman. When they made the deal with Marston, was there has to be X amount of Wonder Woman issues a year. That's why post-Crisis, before George Press started the new book, there's the Legend of Wonder Woman miniseries by Trina Robbins. And it's a good book. It's worth reading. maybe something else for a list. But the whole reason that book exists really is because they had to print something to retain the rights to the character, or they would lose it. So Valen Moore's upset about his deal. I think how Marston's estate feels.
What did they do in the? So what did they do in at the end of was it Infinite Crisis, where Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman weren't around for a year? Was
The books were all still going.
Okay, okay. I couldn't remember how they handled that
Because they did. Because after that, there was 1 year later.
Okay, right.
Where they did. So it jumps to a year. So the year that's missing is when they're all gone, which is 52.
Okay, all right.
So that's what that is.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not the DC guy in the room.
Yeah,
so.
they did not. They did not
Go a year
that
without
with Wonder
printing.
Woman.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's always been Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman have been in print consistently. I'm sure. I mean,
What was
not
it?
to sell the character short, but I'm sure that this legal reason is why Wonder Woman has always been.
That's one of the main
Yeah.
reasons. So yeah. So all right then, we done?
I think so. Anything else you wanted to bring up, or
No,
any other movies we forgot about?
Not that I
talk
know
about?
of. So I tried to get at least a relatively complete list before
Yeah.
we started. So saw some for 2021. Of course, Doctor Strange was still on that list for
Right.
2021. Who knows what's going
They
to
need
happen
new
there?
directors, so we'll see. I'm available. Yeah, I think that's it. There hasn't been any other crazy big news or anything to go over, so I think that'll be it. Next episode, we'll be looking at the previews catalog,
Yep.
right? That'll be the next episode.
About 2 weeks.
Talk about comics and merchandise that'll be coming out.
Hundreds and hundreds of pages
Yeah,
of it.
so many. All right.
Well, so if you want to track me down online, birdcomics.com, BURGcomics.com. Of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and convention season's gearing up. I did add the Benton SI Comic Con, so that's April 4th, I think is when that is in Benton, Illinois. So I guess that's now going to be my first show of the year, though I can't decide if I'm going to do this one. This may be too junk sale thing for me, but apparently the Harley Davidson RV place in Marion is going to do one in their floor room.
Really?
Yeah, at the end of February. So I may, who knows, maybe I'll try that one out. But it's kind of like a junk jamboree. So it's called it's junk and disorderly instead of drunk. Yeah. So anyway, but I don't know. I may pick that one up, but we'll just see how it goes. But for sure, SI Comic Con I'll be there the 1st of April.
All right. And yeah, I don't know what con I'm going to. So I'm Dan. You can find me online at Detective651 on Twitter and Instagram and my TeePublic store. And I'm here most Saturdays at Campus Comics at 816 East Main Street, Suite B. And we're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 11 to 6. So come by, get some good comics, talk shop, hang out, whatever.
Pick up Wonder Woman 750 or the Black Label Wonder Woman book that
Dead Earth first issue's out so far.
Yeah.
That's the creator of Murder Falcon, one of the best titles of a new book. So yeah, come by, check that stuff out, and we'll talk to you next time.
Less snarky.
Yeah.